Izuku Midoriya is born into a world full of quirks, superpowers, or whatever you would like to call them. These quirks give people powers beyond belief, but some powers, well, they're not so good. Other powers, they're really good. Other powers may turn you into a washing machine, and others may actually set your future for the rest of your life. But when Izuku Midoriya is growing up and he's starting to, age up a little bit, being that of maybe 2, 3, 4 years old, he begins to watch these heroes, begins to completely and utterly be in awe of these heroes. And as he watches them, he's excited. He thinks to himself, wow, like these people, they're amazing. And you know who's even more amazing? All Might. All Might's insanely amazing, and he can't believe anything that's going on. He can't believe that someone like this could even exist. And he wonders, can he be like All Might? Well, that's the excitement that a young kid like Izuku Midoriya is having. But unfortunately, when he would arrive at the doctor's, he would see something and hear something that he would never want to hear. And that is that you are quirkless. Izuku hears that he is quirkless and is not going to have or grow into a superpower. But as the doctor is telling both Inko Midoriya and Izuku Midoriya these things, it seems like he continues to peek over at something that is unknown to both of them. He continues to peek over at something that is interesting him. Even Inko Midoriya realizes this and asks him, hey, what's going on? What are you looking at exactly? In which he goes, oh, it's just scans that are making me question something. And he says that, yes, he doesn't have any signs of having a quirk, and maybe there will never be signs to having a quirk, but it's odd that his body is shaped differently. It's slightly different, don't get me wrong. Maybe he's just growing differently than other people, but it's definitely something within his DNA and also his bone structure that is throwing him off. And he even says that they could do more tests, but he assumes that this has something to do with a maybe late blooming quirk, and he thinks that they'll have a check-in in a couple years, in which Izuku would kind of have his excitement come back because he's thinking, oh, there's a chance that I can have a quirk. Maybe it's a strong one. I mean, maybe it took a while for it to, show itself because I'm going to be so strong. And Izuku waits year after year after year, doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment, but nothing. Not a single thing. Doctors would even take these x-rays around the world, and they would come back with nothing. They wouldn't know what's going on with his bone structure, don't know what's going on with his DNA structure. They honestly don't understand a single thing that's happening. And Izuku, well, he doesn't know either. All according to him is that he doesn't have a quirk. And that's something he starts living with. Starts coming to him that he's never going to be the hero he wants to be. And he's disappointed. He continues to wait for some good news, but as he gets older and older, he just realizes that he has to live with the idea that he'll never be able to be the hero he wants to be or even set out to be in the first place. And Izuku lives with that and deals with that. But there's something deep inside, something deep in the back of his head that makes him think he wants to try anyways. He wants to go for it. He wants to give it his all. But he doesn't know if it's even worth doing. And, well, he questions even more because Bakugo throughout the years, even from when he's about 12 to 14 years old, Bakugo continues to tell him that he's useless, continues to tell him that he should never try for UA High School, continues to tell him that he'll have no shot in the entire world. And this makes Izuku feel extremely inadequate, makes Izuku feel extremely, extremely bad. I mean, at the end of the day, what is he supposed to do? What is he supposed to say? How do you argue something like this? I mean, seriously, Bakugo's right. Bakugo is completely right. I mean, at the end of the day, he's nothing. He has no quirk. He has mediocre grades. I mean, maybe it's slightly above average, but he's not like the smartest person in the world. He's got nothing. what is he going to do? I mean, just throw his life away? Just go and try for the UA entrance exam and just get hurt? He shakes his head and realizes that maybe he should just revoke his letter now. Maybe he should go and get rid of it now before it gets mailed in. And as he's actually going to do this one day, his mother would have already mailed it. Would already had the admissions and all the potential there to basically go and try out for UA. And she tells him that if he wants this, if he wants to get into UA, he wants to be a hero, he has to work for it. He has to try. And he's going to feel disappointed in himself every single day if he doesn't at least make an effort. In which Izuku hears this and he realizes, you know what? She's right. I have to make an effort. I have to give it my all. I have to try absolutely as hard as possible, because no one else is going to do that for me. No one else is going to pick up all of these, these horrible doubts that are flooding through the head of Izuku. No one else is going to truly know if Izuku is ready other than Izuku Midoriya. And he knows now. He understands. He understands now that he needs to push himself beyond absolute belief, and he needs to figure out something and figure out how to climb his way to the top of the chain, the top of the food chain, and become the hero he seeks after so heavily. And that's what he's going to do. Izuku begins to do mild training, but nothing to the point where it will actually matter. I mean, we're talking about regular physical training all the way up until he's about 15 years old. Izuku would be maybe more fit than most people, but other than that, nothing special. And Izuku would continue to just keep his head in the books, trying to be smarter, get ready for things, and potentially kind of prepare himself. And Izuku would eventually kind of hear his teacher talking about how they have two students trying to basically get into the UA entrance exam. In which Izuku's thinking, oh, of course, here we go. Bakugo's going to make a big deal out of this once again, and that's exactly what Bakugo does. Screaming, shouting, explosions, yada, yada, yada. That's exactly what he sees, and Izuku is just irritated. I mean, seriously, he's been trying so hard to get himself in a position, hoping that his quirk would finally awaken, but it still hasn't. Still quirkless, still nothing. But what he doesn't know is that there's a power laying dormant within him. A power that he just needs to realize. He needs to awaken it and push it out to the point where it will change his life forever. And, well, let's just say he would finally realize all of this power after the day he has at school. Because Izuku is just annoyed with Bakugo, and Bakugo decides to follow Izuku, following him as they arrive at a fountain of some sorts, and basically tries to blast him with an explosion to get rid of his notebook. But as he does this, Izuku would move out of the way briefly, where the explosion would hit the notebook, but it would send flying towards a bird. A bird would get smacked with the notebook and the explosion partially, burning part of its wing. And Izuku is thinking, well, that's really sad. Poor bird. This is awful. In which Izuku looks toward Bakugo and he tells Bakugo just to leave him alone. What is he doing? He thinks he can be a hero? Look what he does. He's basically a villain. In which Izuku would get exploded into the fountain as well, sending him flying, crashing in it, and he would see the bird basically laying on the side of the fountain, struggling, trying to actually get up and fly. Bakugo would tell Izuku that he should never speak with him again, and that he should watch his damn mouth, especially with how useless he is. Izuku would struggle to his feet, and as he struggles to his feet, he would hold his stomach, the explosion mark surrounding him entirely. But as he holds his stomach, he can feel a sensation, a warm sensation, not like an explosion warm sensation, but a sensation of healing, of prosperity, of basically calmness. And he feels this, and as he feels it, he feels that his body is kind of healing, but he doesn't know what is happening. he struggles to the bird, and he picks up the bird, thinking this is sad. I mean, the bird, it's on his last legs. He's gonna die. And it's all because of Bakugo. Why would he even do that? Seriously, why would he do that? Izuku would pet the bird and basically just close his eyes as he's holding the bird with both hands, and he could feel this warm sensation once again come over his hands. He opens his eyes, and the bird starts glowing for a brief second, and then out of nowhere, the burn mark on the bird is gone. All of the bird's body healed entirely, and the bird flies up and lands on Izuku, chirps a little bit, and then flies away. Izuku watches the bird fly away as he basically pulls up his shirt a little bit and looks at the wound that was on his chest, and it's no longer there either. No longer hurting, no longer bleeding, no longer burning. He's confused, but he's happy about it. How did he do it? He has no clue. Like, genuinely no clue. But he begins to get out of the water, shake himself off, and he begins to actually head home. At least head home in a direction that he normally doesn't go. He goes to head under a bridge, but as he sees this, he sees basically a villain running away from All Might. All Might would smash the villain into the wall, making him splatter into basically a ton of pieces, and All Might sees the kid and asks if he could help him clean up over here. Just, help him clean up a bit. In which Izuku's like, yeah, I mean, of course. He runs over, cleaning up, and of course, All Might asks him, I mean, what happened to his shirt? I mean, it's all burnt. Like, what happened? In which he tells them that some kid did it. And it's no big deal. Like, he's fine. He's not hurt or anything. In which All Might's immediately like, what do you mean you're not hurt? He looks at it, and he sees that there's literally no burn mark on him. It was literally only on the shirt, and he's confused. Hey, I mean, what quirk do you have? In which All Might asks him, kind of questioning Izuku and curious, really. And Izuku says, well, I don't have a quirk. All Might's even more confused. He asks once again, how did you heal yourself then? You must have some sort of quirk, kid, like healing or something. In which Izuku didn't even think about that, but maybe he does. Maybe he can heal things. And Izuku says that he doesn't know. His buddy, or best friend of some sorts, whatever you want to call him, blasted him and a bird on accident, and he was able to heal the bird and himself, not sustaining any serious injuries or anything like that. In which he's confused. How is that even the case? I mean, seriously, I'm quirkless. How could I do that? In which All Might says, you must not be quirkless, kid. I don't know who's been informing you, but you obviously have powers or something that's underlying. And he tells the kid that he's good. He's interesting. And I mean, everybody can do for a sidekick that can heal, and maybe even a hero that can heal. I mean, seriously, healing goes a long way in the hero world. Someone like him, I mean, he can be a big benefit to anybody. In which Izuku asks, can he be like All Might? In which Izuku says this and asks him curiously, and All Might says, you don't have to be like me. You don't. Not even close. You can be something different and be just as good, if not better. All Might nods his head and tells him that he has to get going now and, get the sludge villain out of here. But he tells the kid, he sees potential in him. He should keep climbing, keep going, keep trying. Because that's what matters. And that's what truly every hero works hard for others to try, for others to feel protected enough to give it their best. And Izuku hears this as All Might jumps away. Izuku feels like, wow, maybe I can do this. Maybe this is possible. He looks toward All Might as he gets a weird feeling that All Might has an injury on his body. He doesn't know what it was and how it was telling him, but it's as if he knows, as if he can sense the injury and knows that All Might is actually at a weaker state. In which he kind of shrugs his shoulders a little bit and thinks, well, maybe if I get to talk to him again, maybe we'll have a chance to chat about it. Izuku would head home, and this is when he would start his training. He would be thinking to himself, well, he obviously can heal. He obviously can do something like that. So he has to really lean into it. he has to really try and train these healing like powers, in which he does. Seeing his powers get, well, stronger and stronger. And it's kind of crazy to think about. Like, how is he able to get this much more powerful, at least in terms of his healing? I mean, he gets to the point where he's healing so much, and in terms of he's kind of taking just courtesy days to help out people and do stuff like that. He even goes around where the homeless are and or sees any patients that are injured, and he would heal them. They wouldn't know, and nobody would know, but Izuku would use this as a way of training, in a way, and he would grow stronger and stronger, his healing becoming more potent and more potent. And he thinks to himself, maybe he can do more. Maybe there's something underlying in his body. Maybe there's powers he knows nothing about. There has to be more to this. And he thinks to himself, and he begins to work hard, train his body, hone his body, to the point where he believes maybe something can awaken. Maybe something else can show him. But nothing, not at all. Nothing is showing, and he doesn't know why. I mean, he does the training, like the 10 months of it, and let's be honest, I mean, he is shredded at this point. Like, he is really, really in a good fit. He's extremely fit, and he is extremely, extremely, like, durable in terms of, like, a normal person. And he feels like he's pretty strong, too. And that's always a benefit. I mean, training like this definitely helped him. But all he really has is his healing. I mean, he could heal himself. Well, he can actually naturally heal now, as if he's got some sort of regenerative powers, but he also can heal others. And he believes that there's gonna be a lot of, well, hardships here, and he's gonna find it really difficult to actually get into UA. And that's the reality of it. It's gonna be really difficult to get into UA, and he knows that to be true. So here's the thing, he tries his best. He goes to try out for UA, and he does his normal written portion of the exam, and it's pretty easy. He studied quite a bit, and he had a lot of time to do it. So he studied, he did pretty well. But once we get to the practical is where things get really scary for him, and gets really, really, I don't know how to say it, but basically a bad situation. Because this is robots. Yeah, the practical is fighting robots, destroying them from 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, to even a 0 pointer who is like massive. And well, Izuku's thinking, what is he supposed to do? Seriously, what is he supposed to do? And he doesn't know. He really doesn't. He feels that this might be kind of his out. This might be kind of his game over in a way. He tries his best to eliminate a robot, and he is pretty damn fit. Don't get me wrong. He's pretty strong. So he might be able to eliminate like a 1 pointer and then maybe a 2 pointer. But after that, it's like all the robots are gone. Every last one of them. He doesn't know why, but they are. Izuku's thinking to himself that he just failed. He spent all this time working hard, trying his best, and now he freaking failed. Everything. He just failed. He doesn't know what to say, or he doesn't know what to believe. He feels like it's over. What? I mean, seriously. He wasted all this damn time. He could have been doing anything else. Something else. But All Might said it himself, that he could be useful in so many other ways. It doesn't have to be your normal traditional hero. Izuku thinks about this as he hears the sirens going off and the 0 point robot eventually arriving. And as he sees this 0 point robot, he thinks that it's now or never. He has to do something. He doesn't know what that means and what that something is, but he has to do something. So what does he do? Well, he runs around to see if anyone needs help, until he sees a girl that he recognizes, and a girl that he actually ran into not too long ago, especially at the beginning of this day. Ochako Uraraka is on the ground covered in rubble, and she is injured but also extremely exhausted. Izuku races over, pushing the rubble off as the 0 point robot is approaching, and he basically grabs her, and as he does, she would heal entirely. You basically tell her to stand up and start running, in which she says she can't, but then realizes, my ankle doesn't hurt no more. Nothing hurts. I feel rejuvenized. She immediately would use her quirk on him and also her and dash them out of the way pretty quickly and then release them as they're out of the way of the 0-point robot. Immediately, Izuku smiles and says that was one heck of a way to use her quirk, and that was pretty damn smart. But immediately she says she's never used her quirk like that ever in her life. Not the way that she just, and the most efficient way that she just did right now. She doesn't know what he did, but he did something. He made it so that she was able to utilize it with a lot less strain. She doesn't know how that's even possible, but at least it was a lot less. It was a mild resistance, as if basically she was able to utilize her quirk and not get a super amount or a ton amount in terms of dizziness and nauseousness and stuff like that, which he's just happy that he was able to save her. And well, let's just say Izuku is kind of at ease with the idea that he's not going to be getting in. And it sucks. It really does. And frankly, it's something that Izuku hates to admit, but it's the truth. Izuku knows that there's a good chance, if not a high likelihood, that he won't be getting into UA, but at least he was able to show off a little bit. Show people that he has some sort of powers. Show people that he's capable of doing something, even if it's just saving one person. And Izuku would be kind of sad about this. I mean, seriously, he wanted to get into UA, but obviously that's not in the cards. So he begins to look through other high schools, other things, other places, and other things he possibly could do with his life. But eventually he would get that letter, and he would be curious. He wonders if he was even supposed to get a letter if he didn't get in. And he opens the letter to a hologram with All Might in it. All Might would tell him that his score wasn't that impressive, but what he did was truly something. All Might says that there was a hidden portion of the score known as a rescue or a hero score, and he gained quite a few points in that regard. Izuku, Midoriya, my boy, you may not be your traditional hero. You may only be able to help others and heal them, but you gotta understand that being a hero, all that matters is you helping people. Not how strong you are, not how powerful you are, not if you can punch down a building. Yes, it helps. Yes, it's awesome. Yes, it's cool. But helping people is our number one job, and you are made to do that. Welcome to UA High School, and welcome to Class 1A, in which Izuku is shocked to see this, gaining over 100 points, 100 points flat from his rescue score. Yes, that still puts him on the lower end of things because he literally killed beat 2 robots, but still, he was amazed at this. He really got in. He freaking did it. He can't believe it. He even tells his mother about what happened and that he got in, and that it's the powers that showed up. He was able to get in even without really destroying any robots, in which she's happy for him, extremely happy for him. Glad that he was able to push the boundaries and really get to the point where he can be the hero he wants to be. And that's exactly what Izuku is going to achieve at UA High School. And the first day, well, it's definitely not your ordinary day, because Izuku would walk in and everybody would kind of be all shapes, all sizes, all different colors. Everyone looks different. From short to tall to pink. People with multiple arms. It's so crazy. Everyone's so different. And Izuku, he feels like he fits in. He is very different. And, well, he waits for Aizawa to enter. And as he does, Aizawa would tell everyone to be quiet, everyone to sit down, and that orientation, well, that's off the books. Because they're not going to go somewhere where they can just be talked up, complimented, and praised all the way to the high mountains. He doesn't care about any of that. He cares about results. And those results, well, they're going to come from their quirk assessment test. He wants to test them, see what's going on, what they're capable of, and he wants to see what they're really about. In which, of course, Izuku is interested in this, and he's interested to see if there's anything that will be beneficial to him and what he can do. But he would end up realizing that all of these tests, are made for people with powerful quirks, not a quirk like healing, like he has himself, which technically isn't even determined a quirk because they haven't even been able to see it. They haven't even been able to test for it. Nothing. They don't even know where it comes from necessarily. It's some dormant power, but they do label it like a healing quirk. They don't say he's quirkless necessarily, but Izuku's powers are very, very dormant at this point. And let's just say when Bakugo would throw the ball as far as possible, giving off a pretty damn good score, everybody would be excited to try their best and do whatever. And, well, let's just say Aizawa is not hearing it and not having it, because he says, you know what, let's make it serious now. Because if whoever gets last place is going to be expelled. Izuku hearing this is a bit concerned, but luckily he's pretty damn trained, so he doesn't get last place in all of these things, but he doesn't do very good either. I mean, he doesn't have some powerful quirk that can help him through this, but let's just say he is pretty darn average in everything, and he might be faster and a little bit stronger than some people just because he worked out extremely hard. But in terms of kind of that, Izuku is maybe middle of the pack, probably more like the bottom half of the pack, and he ranks, somewhere like 4 to 5 slots above the last person being Hagakure. But Aizawa would eventually say, like, you know what, I mean, I was just messing with you guys, I was just trying to get the best out of you, blah blah blah. And of course that's not necessarily the case, but he just decided that he was going to let him off, and he just wanted to see what they were truly capable of. But this worries Izuku. There's a lot of things to worry about, but the main thing is that Izuku doesn't have the powers that others have. He doesn't have, the strength and this and that and these crazy things that other people can do. I mean, seriously, he doesn't have any of that. But what is he going to do when he's faced with somebody that he has to take down, that he has to get rid of, that he has to, knock out? I mean, seriously, he doesn't have those type of powers, and Izuku is worried, especially when the next day he would have an actual training session with Bakugo and Tenya Ida versus him and Ochako Uraraka, because All Might himself would set up a heroes versus villains training, pitting Izuku versus his basically rival to the point, or more like arch nemesis in a way. And he's going to be pitted up against Bakugo and Tenya, and he'll have Ochako by his side. But the thing is, he's worried about if he'll really be able to take down Bakugo and Tenya, knowing what Bakugo is truly capable of and knowing what he'll do. And when they all get set up, they strategize. They talk about maybe utilizing Ochako's quirk to try to float around and find the bomb. And, well, that's the first thing they try to do. Trying to float around, find the bomb, and eventually they do locate it, in which Izuku makes it so her quirk doesn't actually really affect her as much. And when they find it, she actually feels like they can't get through this glass. So they're going to have to try and get through the staircase, and at least they know where it is and know the direction. And as they basically go through a different slotted window, they begin to try to sneak their way upstairs. And as they get to the floor, as they finally arrive, they can hear explosions trailing them. And that is Bakugo. Immediately, Izuku says, go find the bomb, go track it down and try and basically get there and touch it. He'll have to fend off Bakugo. He tells her that she has this, she can do it, in which she nods her head and runs off. Izuku turns toward a hallway as Bakugo begins exploding down that hallway. Izuku lines up ready for a fight, ready to do whatever it takes, and he steps one foot in the ground and goes to throw a punch, and he lands that punch. But as he does land the punch, an explosion would explode directly on Izuku, blasting him away exactly toward a wall. And, well, the smoke would fill the corridor and or the hallway, and so All Might and many others cannot see what's actually happening. The smoke covering both Izuku, Midoriya, and Katsuki Bakugo in a fight that many feel heavily favors Katsuki Bakugo. And, well, they have no idea what's happening. But we're going to have to see what happens in this fight. Well, in the next part of What If Deku had Majin powers, Izuku Midoriya is about to get blasted by Bakugo. He's been blasted by some crazy explosions from this absolute delinquent, angry Pomeranian, but he's never seen one like this before. It seems like he's built up all of this sweat within his kind of insanely crazy gauntlets, and he's letting loose an insanely big explosion. An explosion that could just flatline half a building. Izuku braces himself, but he can't do anything really at all. He's about to get hit by the brunt of the explosion, and he's trying to move out of the way. But he gets grazed, or at least half of his body is basically engulfed by this explosion. All Might calls out and basically tells them to stop, but it's way too late. Izuku is thrown by this explosion out of the building, and he goes barreling down. He's completely scorched in this explosion, and he's completely covered in just ash and soot, and he looks like he's burnt to a crisp. Like his entire body looks burnt to a crisp. Everybody's shocked to see this, wondering how. Why did he do that? I mean, seriously, this is a training session. Why would he do that? And of course, Izuku, he didn't think that Bakugo would even go to this length. He didn't think Bakugo would even go this far. Why would he? Why would he ever think in a training session somebody would try and kill him? And here's the thing. Izuku's falling and he feels nothing. He feels absolutely nothing. No pain, no burn, no nothing. He realizes that his body begins to heal itself without him even thinking. He looks around and thinks this is insane. How is he doing this? How is this happening? And before he even touches the ground, he would be levitating above it. Izuku in complete and utter shock, and so is everybody, even an All Might who was borderline about to call the entire training session off. Izuku looks toward a camera and then flies immediately through the window as he smacks a Bakugo straight in the face, sending him directly toward a wall. Izuku would look at his body, his clothes burnt off entirely, but his body healed completely. He's shocked to see this, but he wants to end this now. He looks at Bakugo with a serious face, thinking, I could end you now. I could charge in full head of steam and be done with it. But he stops. He thinks, no, this is what you would want. You'd want me to pop a lid. You'd want me to show everybody that I'm not a hero. You'd want me to show everyone that I'm vulnerable, that I'm weak, that I couldn't hold myself back, even though you just gave me something I never would have imagined. Izuku looks at Bakugo, who's on the ground, cowering in a way and unable to get up, and he thanks Bakugo. He says, thank you. If without you, without your idiotic attempt at killing me, I wouldn't have figured it all out. I wouldn't have understood it. And now I know that my powers, it's so much more than I could possibly imagine. He would then fly up the staircase and head right toward where Tenya Ida is with Ochako Uraka. And he would immediately dart toward the bomb, and he would touch it with one hand. He would help her do the same, and they would win. Izuku would tell Tenya that his partner is downstairs, and he made quite the damn display. That's for sure. Izuku would then say that it's no worries at all. He knows he had nothing to do with it, but it's unfortunate that he had to be teamed up with someone like him. And Tenya is in shock, thinking that he thought Izuku died. He thought the worst. He was so worried he couldn't even react to Izuku touching the bomb. He couldn't even really think for himself. And eventually they would all head back. And let's just say All Might would be very serious about this, telling Bakugo that he has to go to some serious counseling. He tried to kill a classmate, and Bakugo says that no, he didn't. Izuku, he always dodges. He always gets out of the way, and he wasn't trying to hit him directly. In which immediately Izuku would say that that is some BS. That he might have tried to not hit Izuku full on, but he knew what type of damage he would have done if that blast connected. If that thing connected full on, full throttle, that blast would have took his life in a matter of seconds. And that is the reality of it. In which, of course, Bakugo has really nothing else to say because, well, Izuku said it. And that's the truth of it. Izuku was almost taken from life itself on this day, but now he sees things in a totally different way because he now understands his quirk even more, and there must be even more secrets buried underneath his skin, buried in the very DNA that he has. He's not sure, but he has a feeling, a good feeling about this, and a good feeling that there is so much more to come. But nonetheless, Izuku continues with his training, continues getting prepared. Bakugo goes off to a little bit of therapy and different stuff like that, but he obviously is still in the hero school, barely even getting reprimanded because, power equals everything, and power is everything in the hero world. But of course, this doesn't really matter to a large degree, and Izuku kind of gets some tests from some on-field doctors about his quirk and stuff like that, but nothing is really found out. Nothing more than they already had in the first place. So they kind of just let it go and think that Izuku's just ever developing, and maybe there's just going to be even more to come, even more than people could possibly even imagine. But still, he has some training to do, and that training ensues, and eventually they would go to the USJ. And the USJ is something that is pretty damn important, because this is their first time doing rescue training. Something that Izuku excels in, by the way. Something that Izuku, especially with his new powers, would be really good at. But he obviously could heal and help others and kind of do his own thing with kind of, saving people and helping people out. But when they would get to the USJ, they would all be chatting, all be conversating and blah, 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 blah. Well, they would realize that portals would begin to open up and people and creatures and villains would come pouring out of the portals. And bam, they all realized that they are being invaded by a group known as the League of Villains. Scary, extremely scary, but something that, well, they're going to have to really deal with right now. And without the help of All Might, it's going to be up to the students to basically kind of preserve their own survival. And that's what they're trying to do, trying to survive. Izuku, Asui, and Mineta would get sent off to a lake of some sorts, but luckily Izuku, he's able to basically fly up, and he's able to get out of the water, grabbing Asui and also grabbing Mineta and flying them away, making it so these villains that are in the water, they don't even stand a chance. They couldn't even catch up to them. Izuku had Asui and Mineta out of there and off the boat that is in this giant lake before you could possibly know it. Asui would be obviously grateful, and, well, Mineta would be as well, but Mineta would be kind of in his own way, kind of be awkward and, kind of try to be his normal weird self and kind of make advances on Asui and stuff like that while they're literally being saved, which Izuku kind of tosses him to safety, and while he nicely puts down Asui instead, in which he looks over to see that Aizawa is fighting and clashing with villain after villain, destroying what seems to be all of them. But here's the thing. Eventually, the Nomu would come barreling in and would smack him straight into a wall and beat him to a pulp. He is gone. He is completely borderline obliterated, and he is barely hanging on to life. Izuku would fly in, grabbing Aizawa and getting him away, as he sees a hand show up right in front of him, touching his arm, and Izuku could feel his arm cracking and breaking and shattering. He would cut off his own arm in a matter of a split second, taking a knife out of Aizawa's pocket, cutting it off, and he would still carry Aizawa away, healing Aizawa all the way up and healing him to the point where he can actually get back in the fight if he so chooses. Aizawa would gasp in complete shock. "Your arm, kid. What the hell happened to your arm?" Izuku shakes his head and says, "Don't worry about it. Trust me. Don't worry about it." Izuku is basically in pain, but he's healed himself over and he can actually grow back his arm. And Izuku knows this. but he wants to play with this idea. He wants them to think that he's in pain, and he wants them to think that they have some sort of leg up. He tells Aizawa to stay down, act like he's extremely hurt still. They might have an opportunity, especially when, well, eventually someone else shows up, other heroes show up. So Izuku basically goes around healing the other students without many of the villains knowing. And Shigaraki, he's biding his time, messing with some of the students and doing this and doing that. And all Izuku is making sure is he's stalling time for Tenya, as Tenya's running to get All Might, and All Might is about to arrive. And when All Might arrives, Izuku finds this to be the best time, because he tells Aizawa that it's time now, that they're going to go and basically fight Shigaraki, and to just be ready for his signal, and he'll know what that signal is, in which Izuku would scream and tell All Might that he's not going to allow him to fight on his own when he clashes with the Nomu. All Might would clash with the Nomu over and over again as Izuku would charge at Shigaraki. Shigaraki would laugh and tell the kid that he has some gall to charge at him when he has one arm. Shigaraki would put out his hand and Izuku would slip it, throwing the right hand. But as he's throwing his right hand, well, Shigaraki moves out of the way to grab the right hand, but then is out of nowhere smacked with his left hand. Izuku regenerating his left hand, punching him straight in the jaw, and then smacking him straight to the ground when Shigaraki was just flat out not ready for it at all. Izuku follows up with a kick to his stomach, and Shigaraki grabs his leg, but Aizawa would be utilizing his quirk, realizing that he's able to shut down Shigaraki's quirk, and Izuku would stomp on his back. Izuku begins to beat on Shigaraki, being able to actually incapacitate him to a certain extent, and Izuku would look toward Kurogiri as he's actually basically taken away by a portal once again. Izuku would try to jump through the portal, but he can't. He would look around to see that he's in another part of Japan. He begins to kind of curse and be extremely upset because he's thinking he really could have helped more, but he hopes that everyone will be safe. He would eventually make his way back to the school, and as he arrives, he sees all the students seemingly safe and sound, and of course, he would see Aizawa walk up to him, and Aizawa would ask the kid if he's okay, what happened, and so on. And he says that he was portaled away to a different part of Japan, and he was pretty damn far away, but luckily he can fly, so he was able to come back in a timely manner, and he asked what happened. And of course, Aizawa says that it doesn't really matter necessarily, but everyone was safe, everyone was healed up, and not even injured because of him. And on top of that, well, it seems that Shigaraki and these other villains, they actually got away, except for the Nomu. They actually left the Nomu after All Might defeated it, in which immediately Aizawa would bring Izuku to the side and ask if that healing, all that healing he did, could he do that for All Might? In which Izuku says he's not sure. He's not, but he can try. Is there something wrong with All Might? In which Aizawa would kind of pause for a second and then tell Izuku he needs to go talk to All Might, in which Izuku nods his head, and that's what he does. And Izuku would meet up with All Might, and they would have a long conversation. He would explain his quirk, explain what he is, and you know, the injury he got. And honestly, this is when he would actually offer One for All to Izuku, believing that Izuku might be the perfect candidate for it. But Izuku shakes his head. He says there's so much different about his own powers that he just doesn't feel like this will give him the chance to uncover and discover everything he needs to discover. But he wants him to hold on to One for All. If he wants to give it to someone else that is worthy, go right ahead. But he can heal All Might. He knows he can. He tells All Might to sit down, and he begins to heal him, and All Might begins to feel that the wound that was scarred over, the wound that was disgusting and destroyed part of his lungs, it begins to heal. Like, it seems like he's refreshing almost every body part in All Might's body, even vital organs. And it seems like he's healing him all the way up, and All Might feels like he's in his prime once again. All Might can't believe it. He wonders, this power that Izuku has, it's insane. It's amazing. It's groundbreaking. And, I mean, in the right hands, it will be perfect. He could truly be the greatest hero ever. But there's something that All Might said. In the right hands, it could be amazing. It could be great. It could make somebody the greatest hero ever. But in the wrong hands, like Shigaraki's, like Hirogiri's, like All for One's, it could make the most unstoppable monster to ever be seen. And Izuku, well, that worries him. That thought, that idea worries him, makes him very, very scared, because he doesn't know what his powers are truly like. He doesn't know what it can truly make of his powers, but it seems as if there's something that was left out. It seems as if Shigaraki got DNA from Izuku, and they actually want to somehow make something of it. But they need Izuku. They need more. They need him to make what they truly think that they can make. But this is an unknown territory that the doctors and scientists, they would have no idea where to start. And frankly, this is something that could either go really good for them or really, really bad. And that's the reality of it, because there's no true rhyme or reason to proceed with something so unknown. But guess what? They're gonna do it anyways, and Izuku and everybody else will have no idea what's happening, at least for the moment. And the next part for Izuku's journey, well, that's the UA Sports Festival. And the UA Sports Festival is pretty damn entertaining. He definitely doesn't have a speech to do or anything like that, but it's entertaining to watch everything that's happening, and Izuku is happy to really be there. And the obstacle course race, easy peasy. He flies around and he eventually gets there, and he doesn't even worry about getting number one or not. He has no worries in the world about it, actually, feeling that he has no, let's just say, expectations. So he gets around 4th place, and Izuku would team up with similar people, with Ochako, with Tokiyami, with Mei Hatsume and all of them. And Mei even brings up the fact that she actually is really interested in basically working with him a lot more, and wondering more about him, about his regenerative powers and this and that, in which he says, yeah, they can talk about it more very soon, but for now he'll stick to just what they're doing. In which Mei says, of course, like, sorry, we'll talk later. In which they would kind of do their own thing, and they would be able to defend their headbands for the most part from everyone, especially with the fact that Izuku can fly and basically take everybody with them. So they're able to hold on to their scores, getting a pretty damn decent score of their own, and watching everybody fight over a 10 million point headband. This would lead them into 1 versus 1s, in which Izuku would be pretty damn excited to actually fight some people, fight some of the strongest people in this class, in class 1A, in class 1B, whatever, wherever, and whoever he wants to actually get into doing this. In which his first fight is against someone by the name of Shinso, in which this is interesting. Shinso, huh? I mean, he wonders what the powers he has are, and he's even they explain what they are to him, because they're trying to look out for Izuku. But as Izuku basically is about to fight him, well, he starts making fun of Izuku, starts saying these horrible things, and Izuku gets caught up and actually responds. And as he does, okay, well, that's not good, because he falls under this kind of weird mind control brainwashing state. And as he's there, well, he begins to see things, very odd things. He sees something in the distance, something that looks pink, maybe gooey. He's not sure what the material is, but it has, well, hair, has, clothing, has just normal stuff, and it seems to be in a lab of some sorts. He doesn't know what it is, who it is, or what's going on, but he tries to approach it, continuously walking forward, until all he can see is nothingness now. The thing is gone. Whatever it was, it's no longer there, and Izuku wonders, what was it? What is it? And as he reawakens, he's stepping off onto the ground, but he's able to float above the ground actually avoiding a knockout, or a ring out, excuse me. Izuku would turn around, flying and kicking Shinso off, and he apologizes, telling Shinso that his quirk is very interesting, but he's still learning so much about his own, and it seems like his quirk just falls a little bit short. Izuku would prepare himself and basically get ready for the next thing, and get ready for the next kind of event, or the next person that he's going to have to face off with. And yeah, that is going to be an interesting one, because it is Shoto Todoroki. And Shoto Todoroki, well, he brings it. Izuku would watch as he throws ice pillar after iceberg after iceberg, and he brings it to Izuku, and he tries everything. And Izuku is slowing down to a certain extent, but eventually Shoto would begin to slow down, and he would massively slow down to the point where it kind of seems like his weakness is just overusage of his quirk, and his ice is beginning to cover him, and it's going really bad for him now, because Izuku is finding openings that, well, he's seeing, especially with the way he's utilizing his quirk. He questions him, why not use his other side? I mean, seriously. I mean, if he uses his other side, he definitely can mitigate it better, and he definitely can do a lot better in this fight. And, well, he looks over, and, well, he hears Endeavor scream that he's right, Shoto. You need to use your fire side. Use that fire side. And Izuku looks at him and then looks back at Shoto, and he realizes, oh, that's why. That makes a lot of sense. Izuku would tell Todoroki that he gets it. He hears him. He understands it. But guess what? It's still his quirk. Still his powers. And he needs to utilize it to really, really uphold his fullest potential. And he knows he doesn't want to. He knows that he doesn't want to actually use his father's powers, but it's his powers now, his strength. And every single day they are developing. Every single day they are learning, and every single day they are getting stronger. And that includes Todoroki. That includes Shoto, in which he tells Shoto to do this and help himself and help him, because he would never want to win when someone's using half of his powers, in which Todoroki would awaken his fire, and Izuku would smile, and he would nod. He would say that this right here, this is a fitting end. Izuku charges forward as fire and ice would get thrown right at his direction. Izuku would try to barrel forward, trying to push his way through, but he can feel the ice and the fire pushing against him, and it throws him out of the ring. But for a brief moment, he can feel that he could stop himself. He can stay in this fight, but he decides that he's going to be eliminated. He's going to let himself be eliminated, and he wants to see what Todoroki has next. Laying on the ground, being eliminated, Todoroki would help him up, and Izuku would just be smiling. He basically tells Todoroki that his power is impressive, and, well, I think all of them have a long way to go, and Todoroki nods and says that he agrees. He really does. In which they walk away, and everyone cheers, and, all hoopla and hoorah, and Izuku just watches the rest of the UA Sports Festival, impressed with how good Todoroki does, leading to Todoroki actually winning and utilizing his fire side fully, not actually limiting himself against Bakugo, in which is massively impressive, and it's a massive impressive kind of thing for Shoto Todoroki, showing off in front of everybody. And, well, Endeavor is really happy, but it's pretty obvious that that was not because of Endeavor, and Todoroki in a speech makes it very clear. Says that he got some advice from some very, very good friends that he should utilize that fire side because it's his own powers. It has nothing to do with his father, and he's going to separate himself as a hero from his father however he possibly can. In which Izuku would smile, watching all of it unfold, and Izuku is just excited to see what happens next. And unfortunately, he would actually be down quite a bit of offers. He doesn't have that much, and very little offers, in fact. And the only one that actually surprises him is hand-delivered by All Might. And it's from Gran Torino, someone who trained All Might himself. And All Might says he feels like this is the best thing for him to give to him because, well, he kind of helped out a lot, right? He helped him out a lot. So Gran Torino would love to take him on as a student, in which Izuku thinks this is a great idea. I mean, a way for him to train his strength, a way for him to kind of get better at martial arts and, fighting. I mean, it'd be great, especially learning from somebody as wise as someone that taught All Might, in which this would make him very, very excited. And eventually he would actually train with Gran Torino, and eventually he would start training with him and working and doing this and doing that, in which Gran Torino would even bring up the fact that he really should have taken on One for All. He's kind of the perfect successor, in which Izuku says he understands that, and he continues to explain why he doesn't want to, in which Gran Torino stops him and says, no, he understands, he gets it. But in the side of watching heroes, it's kind of beyond him not to say something, and beyond him not to say that he had great potential with the addition of One for All as well. It doesn't mean he doesn't have great potential and amazing potential now, but he just, in the hero kind of mindset, it would have been pretty awesome to see, in which Izuku continues to get training all the way up until they actually are going to Hosu City for some a bit of kind of looking and also patrolling in that city. But before you know it, they would be seeing Nomus and creatures and villains all about, so much more than you could possibly imagine, and so much more than they ever thought would actually be there. And Izuku would go with Gran Torino to try to help as many people as possible. And Izuku does just that, helping a ton of people, healing, helping, getting everybody out of harm's way, flying around, saving a bunch of people. And let's just say there are a lot of phones, there's a lot of people watching this as it's happening, and it's pretty darn amazing to watch. Everybody is in complete awe. Like, whoa, who is this guy? Who is this kid that is flying around saving all of these people? I mean, seriously, this is amazing. And eventually, well, let's just say a Nomu would try to actually attack Izuku. But as he goes to attack Izuku, well, out of nowhere, someone would come barreling out, stabbing the Nomu and slamming him into the ground. This was Stain. Stain actually just crumbles the Nomu into the ground, just obliterating it. And he looks at Izuku and he says that he's been watching him. He actually was killing a fake hero over there, but he started watching Izuku fly around, save people, help everybody with a smile on his face, healing, saving. That right there, he reminds him of All Might. He reminds him of a true hero, in which Stain would tell him, or basically, Izuku would tell Stain that he needs to surrender now. He does. And he tells Stain that he needs to surrender and stop the violence against fake heroes. Let them rehabilitate. Let them save themselves from mediocrity. Stain would look at him, then look back at the alleyway, and then Stain would look back at Izuku once again. And Stain would nod his head, and he would say, well, maybe not today. Maybe another day. He would jump off and just leave. Just leaving the body that he had right there that was about to be killed, just there in the alleyway. And Izuku would look, and it's Tenya Ida. He can't freaking believe it, but it happened. What is this? I mean, seriously, this is insane. He runs over, helping Tenya, healing him up, and asking, what the hell was he thinking? What was he doing? And Tenya has some BS excuse, but luckily he's safe. Luckily he's okay. And Izuku is able to get him and many others out of there, leading to many heroes praising him extremely loudly, and also a lot of the media praising him as well. And when he gets back to school, when all the internships are cut off a little bit short, everybody is talking about it. This savior, this person who's like a guardian angel. I mean, flying around, healing and saving. And Aizawa tells the kid that this is what this hero world is. But it seems like he has a good grasp on it nonetheless. But back to real life and back to the task at hand, because they got some final exams to handle. and that's a written portion and a practical, and Izuku is going to have to handle them both. And it's going to be difficult because after the written, in the practical, he's going to have to take on someone he's really not going to want to take on, and that is All Might. All Might versus Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo. But how will that fight go? Well, you're going to have to find out in part 3 of What If Deku Had Majin Powers. Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo are about to face off with All Might himself. But a lot of people believe that this is far from fair. Izuku has legitimately not shown any massive capabilities of actual fighting. He hasn't shown like some insane feats of actually being able to straight up fight people. He showed a little bit in the UA Sports Festival, but that was about it, and it was more of a raw power situation. And frankly, Izuku continues to kind of show that he's really more of a healer and more of a support person. But here's the thing, Izuku's going to have a chance to really show off what he's capable of in this fight, especially because he's going to be able to work with Bakugo and show that Bakugo's kind of sabotage-esque attitude won't even matter, because Izuku begins to go straight forward right into basically a fight with All Might, and everybody is in awe at the fact that Izuku is genuinely hitting All Might, like dashing back and forth, hitting him, and it looks very similar to somebody that people have heard about and have actually seen. Well, a couple of them have seen, and that is Gran Torino. And it seems odd because they had no idea that, well, you know, Izuku was gonna be this good at fighting, but he's not really damaging All Might at the moment, like at all. So it's kind of neither here nor there, right? He's not damaging All Might at all, so it doesn't really matter, but he is slowing down All Might. And Izuku continues to do this, and All Might or Bakugo follows up with explosions as well, and they continue to try and fight All Might, but they don't land, or they don't really land anything that is determining. They don't really land anything that is really hurting All Might, and there's a couple reasons for that. First, well, the explosions and Izuku's feats of strength aren't amazing. Secondly, All Might is borderline in his prime now, so there really isn't much of an issue when All Might is fighting the kids. But on top of that, yes, he does have some things weighing him down and some things that are kind of, you know, holding him back just a little bit, in terms of weights and weight and all that. And all the, you know, all that good stuff, but it really doesn't matter. It actually is the fact that Izuku and Bakugo are just not that strong in comparison to the durability that All Might is truly showing off. And that is the reality of it, and that's the reality of what's going on during this fight. Eventually, Bakugo is going to have to understand that there is no winning here, because All Might begins to hit Izuku with all of his strength, smacking him over and over again, but Izuku is able to recover extremely quickly, being able to, for the most part, kind of heal himself back, regenerate, and just his durability is through the roof. So he's like a constant pest that keeps going after All Might over and over and over again, but he doesn't actually, or isn't actually able to sustain it. He's not actually able to injure All Might to a large degree. This would eventually lead to Bakugo and Izuku realizing they're gonna have to just run away, and Izuku actually awakening another power, something that he's actually been working on for quite a bit. He grabs Bakugo, flies off, and then immediately looks toward All Might as he charges at them and stops him with some sort of telekinesis, seemingly adding magic of some sorts and stopping him entirely, unable to move and unable to push forward. Izuku, well, he's able to stop All Might and stop him in his tracks. And everyone's thinking, this is insane. How is he able to do that? How were they able to stop All Might from chasing them? Bakugo and Izuku would eventually escape, and they would pass their final exam just like that, by escaping to get help, quote unquote. but more or less escaping from the fight against All Might. And All Might even says that he didn't expect Izuku to have powers like that. And Izuku says that he has a lot more. He knows he does. He just continues to awaken them as he continues to train more and more and more. And of course, they're preparing for the forest training camp, so it's a perfect time for Izuku to work on all of his powers and then eventually work on kind of gaining new powers. And that's the perfect thing for Izuku and everyone there. And here's the thing. Initially, they were thinking, oh, this is going to be great. They're going to get there. Class 1A arrives and they get chucked off a mountain and blah, blah, blah. And, they have a bit of a training session by destroying these Earth-like monsters. And they were thinking, this is going to be amazing still. This is going to be great. I mean, I can't wait to have a good time with doing what we're doing. I can't wait to get some good, solid training in. And yes, Izuku does get that good, solid training for a couple days, actually. Getting that good, solid training for a couple days. Still working on all of his powers, from his like magic-esque powers to his healing to his regeneration, everything you could possibly think of. He's still growing, he's still gaining, he's still gathering even more strength. But eventually, he actually sees and hears some things going on. He hears a massive, massive group of people. And we're talking, it seems to be a group of people that is just in a normal city location, or at least they hear something like that. But then the sound stops and they're confused. Well, it was because portals have opened up and villains have invaded the forest training camp. And Izuku thinks very quickly on his feet, flying away, as he thinks that, well, Koda, a little kid that he met at this forest training camp, is gonna be under attack. In which he was right. Koda is under attack by someone by the name of Muscular. Muscular is a giant monster of a being, a monstrous freak of nature, and Koda is sitting there like a sitting duck. There's no way for him to get away. There's no way for him to be stopped. But Izuku chimes in and goes in and absolutely starts beating on Muscular, dashing around, clashing with him, and Muscular even kind of transcends into his more muscular form, grabbing Izuku and tearing him, literally tearing him in half. And then Izuku just regenerates. He tells Muscular that there's nothing he can do that will kill him, and he'll always come back. And he continues to beat on Muscular more and more. And he feels his wound heal up entirely, just completely healing up the massive wound, and his organs regenerating themselves as well. And Izuku would eventually beat on Muscular to the point that he's finally defeated, finally out cold and completely incapacitated. Izuku would grab Koda and Muscular, flying him back to the forest training camp, throwing him on the ground, telling Aizawa to make sure to keep tabs on that guy and don't let him get away. Aizawa is pretty damn impressed. He's thinking, okay, this kid is damn serious, and he is definitely no joke. And of course, Izuku basically continues to help as many people as possible, but before you know it, he would feel something tap him. A sensation would grow over his body, and it would be extremely weird, extremely odd. He doesn't know what it is, how it came to be, and what it's coming from, but he realizes that he is trapped now, stuck in a small-ish marble, and he could just feel the world around him slightly shaking, as if they're moving, as if they're going somewhere, as if something's happening. And eventually they would arrive at the destination, whatever destination they're currently going to. He would basically come out of this little marble, and he would see that he is surrounded by villains, by Nomus, and they have him completely strapped to a chair, unable to move and unable to actually do a single thing. Izuku questions what the hell they think they're doing, and that they're making a massive mistake. Of course, the villains say no, they are not making a massive mistake, and frankly, Izuku is the one that made a massive mistake when he decided that he wanted to be a hero in the first place. That he could have been so much greater, that he could have done so much for science, for everything. And it's just some random scientist telling him all these things. Izuku would tell him to leave him alone, that if he wants to have a fair fight, he wants to go head to head, he wants to, well, get beaten badly, well, let him go. Uncuff him, get these cuffs off of him, and he'll show him what he can really do. In which the scientist would tell him that, well, that's eventually going to happen, but don't worry about that, not just yet. He questions Izuku, asking about his powers, asking about what he could do, asking about this or that, and then he walks up with a syringe and he begins to extract blood from him. Izuku would tell him to basically F off, telling him to stop right now or else. And the doctor just kind of ignores him and walks over and puts the vial of blood in a different place. Izuku would look down to see his wound, and he could see that his wound is healed, but his wound is actually a different color. Like the outline, it's like a scar. It's a different color than his normal skin color. He wonders, what the hell is going on? Izuku would eventually hear some odd things in the background, and Izuku would question once again, what the hell do you think you're doing? In which the doctor or the scientist would tell him that they've been trying to create something interesting. They've been actually, or to this day, they actually got a little bit of his DNA, but they weren't able to actually utilize it. I mean, at the end of the day, he is quirkless, but he does have powers that are different. Powers that are like, let's say extraterrestrial in a way, in which immediately Izuku shakes his head and says, what, you think I'm some freaking alien? Like, what is wrong with you? Are you stupid? In which the doctor or the scientist says, no. They don't think that he's an alien, not per se, but they do believe that the blood that runs through his veins is an answer to a lot of things. And they've been working on something, actually for quite a bit now, working on someone, in which immediately Izuku shakes his head. What the hell are you talking about? As they reveal somebody to him, reveal this, well, feminine looking person. And he's not sure who it is. He doesn't recognize anybody or by any means at all. And he eventually would see the blood that he has pumping through this somewhat machine that goes into, well, this person. And as it does just that, the machine would begin to freak out. It begins to shake like vigorously and completely kind of smash itself together. And eventually someone pops out. It's a woman, but it's a woman with pink skin and a woman with flowing white hair. Izuku is confused. This is what you wanted? You wanted to create someone else? You wanted to create a person? Why not just, do it the old-fashioned way? Maybe you could have done that. Or do you just not go out very often? Maybe you can't get any women. In which he continues to taunt the scientist, and the scientist tells him to shut his mouth as he's shocked intensively, and he basically tells Izuku that he knows about his basic immortality, that he basically can't die, so he can torture him all he wants because he knows damn well he feels pain. Izuku would look at his body as he can see this pink-like or looking like substance continue to kind of go over his body. He thinks that maybe his skin will look like hers. He doesn't know what the heck is going on, but he can feel different. He feels entirely different, and eventually the woman would walk up. The woman would begin to ask the scientist what's going on, what's happening, and what he wants her to do. And of course, this is kind of an odd thing for Izuku, because he's like thinking, what the hell is going on? Like what is even happening, and what is she doing? And what is going, like what is even going through the head of this scientist and through the head of this woman that just appeared? In which immediately, well, the doctor says that he wants Android 21 to actually go over there and absorb him. Izuku is like, absorb? What the hell are you talking about? Absorb what? In which Izuku, still seeing his skin creep up on itself and eventually turn a solid pink, and the doctor says that he's done a lot of tests, hours and hours. He doesn't sleep anymore. All he's done is test his DNA, and he realizes that he has basic absorption, to the point where if you are absorbed, that more power will be gained. And on top of that, it seems like it's a missing piece for this one right here. Izuku looks at the woman and looks at the girl and asks if this is what she really wants. Android 21? Is that even her real name? Seriously, there's just no way that some person would label someone an android and just call them 21. It's ridiculous. It's idiotic. You must have a name, an actual name, in which she kind of looks at the doctor and doesn't really say anything, but just looks at him. That's it. In which immediately he's thinking, this is ridiculous. You're really going to take my life away. You're really going to do this. You're really going to end my life just because he said so. In which Android 21 would eventually basically tell him that you're right. I'm not Android 21. That's not my name. It's actually Bami. In which immediately Izuku shakes his head and says, good. Like, you have a name. Why would you let someone like him control you? Why would you let someone like him control every aspect of what's happening? The scientists would immediately tell Izuku to shut his mouth, actually putting a gag around Izuku's mouth that is fully made of metal. Izuku would struggle trying to talk, but Android 21 her gaze would go from Izuku to the doctor and immediately would kill the doctor. Then walking up to Izuku and says that he's really interesting. He looks just like her. Well, at least similar. He's obviously a male, but they look pretty similar, huh? In which Izuku realizes that she's not a good person. That whatever's happening within her body, whatever's going on, she's not good. But Izuku would eventually be left free, and he stands up with her, and she says that, well, he said that if we fused, we brought together, I absorbed you, that I would be complete once again. That I'd be where I was supposed to be. That I would be the person, the creature, the monster, the hero, the villain, whatever I wanted to be, but I would be the combination of us two. The true, what he labeled as Majin. In which Izuku shakes his head and says that no one has to die anymore. No one has to be absorbed. No one has to go away. Izuku would look in her eyes though, and she's already made up her choice. She's already cut off her strings from the doctor, and she's about to cut off some more, because she immediately sends Izuku flying out of the building. He would crash after building, realizing that whatever strength she has, he has it. He just has to bring it out. He just has to show everyone another level. In which Izuku, he continues to try and defend himself, continues to try to fight back, and eventually All For One, Shigaraki, and many others are actually using this as a way of basically taking over and fighting, and also possibly eliminating All Might. But the thing is, he doesn't know that All Might is in peak shape. He is in prime All Might state, and when All Might goes to conflict with All For One would be defeated very fast, like very quickly. And on top of that, All Might would actually be able to swoop in, knocking out Shigaraki and knocking out the entirety of the League of Villains. All For One unprepared for this, because he was unprepared for what Izuku truly is. Izuku doesn't have a quirk. Izuku is a Majin, in which Izuku continues to try and fight Android 21, telling her that it doesn't have to be this way, that they can figure something out, that no one has to be absorbed, no one has to disappear. But immediately he would be engulfed partially in this goo, and this goo would kind of cover him up, and Izuku would shake his head. No, don't do this. You don't have to do this. And eventually All Might would see what's happening, but Izuku would put out his hand, telling him, no, don't move. in which Izuku would tell him this because he doesn't want anyone else getting, for one, absorbed, but also he doesn't want anybody else getting involved. He thinks that he can get through to her. He thinks, no, he knows, but maybe he's wrong. He's just a kid. He's just a teen going through high school. What is he supposed to know? How is he supposed to know? This is a different scenario, a scenario that nobody would have been prepared for, a scenario that nobody would have been ready for. And Izuku, he wasn't, but he's gonna have to do something about it. Izuku is on the bridge of being absorbed entirely, and he would then scream, roaring to the point where his body would then kind of change. His whole body, no longer even a kind of resembling his normal skin tone, fully pink now and fully bubble gum like. It's weird. Everybody looks and thinks that this is odd, but Izuku tells her that he's not going to allow this to happen, that he'll make sure that she's stopped right here and right now. They clash, and Izuku can feel his strength gathering, rising, and his power being absolutely insane. And he can feel the power, and Android 21 realizes that Izuku has broken through that wall, has broken through whatever kind of wall that was restricting him, and broken through everything that he had doubts in, that he is truly channeling the powers of a Majin, but his powers are more pure. His powers are not artificially made. His powers, well, he was born with them. But this does lead Izuku into realizing that the only way to stop this, to end this, is to absorb this woman. Absorb Bami, a woman that was once existing, a woman that was once normal, a normal scientist, now android. Android 21 needs to be absorbed, and this Majin needs to be taken out, in which eventually Izuku would find and bolster up a plan with the help of All Might, and they would find a way to catch her off guard, and Izuku would surround her and absorb her, actually absorbing her powers, her strength, and everything to boot. And it seems like Izuku can feel this strength just overwhelm him, this strength just flow throughout his entire body, and then he looks toward All Might and a smile would grow on his face. But that smile would eventually turn into a very, very off-putting smile. Izuku would scream as if it's like some sadistic laughter, and he would charge toward All Might. All Might would be shocked and throw a punch, but it's caught by Izuku, and he lands a clean knee to his stomach, sending him flying. All Might would watch as he basically is getting sent away. He would recover himself and then tell Izuku to stop this now. Stop what he's doing. He has to get a hold of himself. He has to figure this out. This is not him. This is not what he is. It's not who he is. Izuku would shake his head, and a little bit of Izuku would get through, and he would tell All Might that they have to capture him. They have to stop him, because he doesn't know if he could stop himself. He doesn't know what this is. And immediately he would charge back forward at All Might, fighting him, and All for One would begin laughing, saying that the kid's only way to stop that freakish, fake, horrible lab experiment was to absorb her. But in absorbing her, it transferred a very evil consciousness into Izuku, and now he's fighting with it, fighting for control. This consciousness, well, is pure evil. Something that she was holding on to, something that is now transferred into Izuku, and something that his human body cannot handle. Of course, All for One would laugh more and more while he's already captured and he's already secured, and he says that even though he won't see the end of that tunnel, he won't see the world bow at his feet, every single person will remember him as the person that created the creature to ensue mass genocide, in which this would shock All Might hearing this, thinking that Izuku is supposed to do that. Izuku's supposed to cause mass genocide. He doesn't believe it. No, he tells Izuku that he's better than this. He tried for everything. He pushed himself for everything he's gotten, everything that he's earned. He wanted to be a hero, and now he can be. Now he will be, but he can't do this. He needs to stop now. But Izuku's powers still growing at a rapid rate, unable to even deter him. His stamina unlimited, and his power seems to be growing rapidly. And eventually, Izuku would look at All Might with a very, very scary grin and put up his hand. That one hand would glow pink, and it would begin to shoot these beams into the sky. All Might thinks that this isn't good. Everybody needs to get down. Everybody needs to run away. But Izuku, well, he's already clearing out Japan. One after another, explosion after explosion. So many are being destroyed and killed. But eventually, Izuku would gain back control, and he would feel that what he did, he knows what he did. And Izuku would immediately try to detain himself, immediately trying to get some sort of restraints on him. And other heroes would come in and help as well, grabbing onto him and kind of securing him entirely. And he tells them they need to get him to a secure facility right now. He can't control this power any longer. He can't do it. And eventually they would get him to a secure facility, one that was able to somehow scramble this quirk, or this power, which isn't even really a quirk, but it somehow scrambles the power and secures him enough to where he actually can't hurt anybody, at least right now. And immediately Izuku apologizes to everybody. He says he's sorry. And, well, not many people know what to say, but the news stations believe that this is a villain, that he has become a villain, and that he is now the worst threat in the entirety of the world. And they begin calling for his head. They begin calling to eliminate Izuku Midoriya, and Izuku doesn't know what to do. The power he saw as his pathway to becoming a hero, his pathway to protecting so many, it's now collapsing. It's now going away. It's now, well, losing everything. He no longer knows what to do. He knows that if he leaves this room, there's a good chance that he's overwhelmed by his evil self once again. But if he stays here forever, well, they might be just counting down the minutes. They might be just waiting for something bad to happen, waiting for something bad to occur. And Izuku can only think that he's gonna be bound here forever, bound here until, well, the other side of him decides to play. And it's the other side of him that decides to react and breaks out of here in an instant. Izuku's worried, and before you know it, after days and days and days and days of thinking, strategizing everything, it seems like the entirety of Japan is preparing for Izuku to come once again, to get out of the prison that was created for him and basically destroy everything. But here's the thing. Izuku doesn't have many choices. He doesn't have many thoughts. He doesn't know. And he thinks that maybe the only way to truly save everyone is for him to go away, far away, to go somewhere in space, to go where this person, this power, and this kind of supposed gift originated. I mean, seriously, he doesn't have another choice. All for One got what he wanted. All for One has made his stamp. And even Izuku knows that he killed thousands, maybe even tens or hundreds of thousands. And he knows that he'll have to live with that burden. But maybe it's best if he goes off, flies off, and goes into space. And if he dies from the, lack of oxygen, well then good. Because, well, at least everyone's safe. But maybe he'll have to explore and leave forever. And eventually Izuku would get a feeling this idea and this feeling that the evil side is coming out very soon, and he decides that he's gonna break out and he'll leave forever. Alarms going off, everybody in a frenzy, and Izuku is floating above the prison. Everybody wonders what's going on. Everybody wonders what he's doing. Heroes, everybody would come over and come to basically subdue him or do something, and he tries to tell them that he's leaving, he's going into space, but many of them begin to say that that's not the right choice. They have a chance, they could save him, they could do something, they could get rid of the evil, but he doesn't even know. But before he could fly away, he is blasted with an explosion, sending him flying back down. Bakugo tells him that this is not how they give up on him, that he does not choose to save everybody. He does not choose the pathway that's basically of least resistance. They are going to figure this out, and they are going to save whatever is left of Izuku Midoriya. Izuku can feel the evil side creeping in once again, and it takes over, and the fight would ensue. Izuku would take on our heroes that are from some of the highest ranking heroes, from All Might to many others, and he's also even taking on villains who believe that this is the only way, that they have to stop Izuku any way they possibly can. Everybody gathering in to basically try their best to stop him. Everybody needs to help stop Izuku. But what will happen to Izuku Midoriya? Will he fly off into space and never be seen again? Or will they find a way to somehow get the evil side out of him? Well, you're going to have to find out in the next and final part of What If Deku Had Majin Powers. Izuku Midoriya is no longer Izuku Midoriya. His mind, his body, his entire physique, and everything going on seems to be out of control. He's killed many people, and there's really no going back on it now. So many injured, so many killed, and frankly, it seems like the heroes are going to have to do everything in their power to stop him. To stop Izuku Midoriya from killing and hurting anyone else. And that's what they try to do. They try absolutely everything. All Might goes head to head. Endeavor, some of the strongest heroes out there, begin to basically try and stop Izuku. Trying to stop him entirely. And they're trying everything. Trying anything and everything in their power to stop him. But it seems as if it's like he's completely possessed. As if he's completely just out of it. No longer the person he once was. But here's the thing. There's someone else there. There's someone else that could potentially save him. But that person is just too young. Well, a couple weeks ago, they invaded the Shiha Zaikai base with a prime All Might. With many people able to help out and a lot of people able to handle it, they were able to actually stop Overhaul even while Izuku was in prison. But also able to get a little girl by the name of Eri. And they believe that Eri could rewind Izuku back to a time where he wasn't the person he is now. He wasn't this evil person that absorbed another person. They're hoping that if they rewind him, that this other person, this other creature of some sorts would go away within his absorption, but would stay gone in reality. But they know that she's not ready, that she's far from ready. But she insists on trying to do something. She insists on trying to help someone and do something. But of course, Aizawa refuses, saying that she's not ready, that she is still a little girl and she isn't trained enough to do something like this. Izuku's still fighting all of the heroes, and it looks like he's putting a lot of the top heroes on their back foot, grabbing and slamming them to the ground, his regeneration showing to be way too much for any of them to handle, and it seems like he continues to his onslaught, and he continues to beat on them, eventually leading to him actually getting cut in half. Izuku would see this, and this would show proof of his regeneration, because they did, maybe hurt his arm, do this, do that, but this would show proof of the regeneration where he's cut in half and he would just grow back once again. And everybody would just look at this and be thinking that what are they supposed to do? They don't know if they can put him down, and they think they would have to incinerate him entirely. Endeavor getting an idea, telling them that they need to give him a chance to do this, that if they get up into the sky, he might be able to incinerate him entirely with a prominence burn. And of course, they try to set him up, trying to slow Izuku down just enough to give him the opportunity. All Might grabbing him and charging him into the sky, basically jumping into the sky, as Endeavor would follow. Endeavor would grab onto Izuku as well, and he would tell All Might to get out of here, that he has to go. But All Might tells him that he's not strong enough. He won't be able to hold Izuku down, so he'll hold him and he will burn. In which Endeavor would tell him that this is a bad idea, that All Might will die with him, that All Might will be crushed, will be burned, will be incinerated with Izuku Midoriya. If he uses all of his power and everything, and even more, he'll die with him. All Might would tell him that it doesn't matter, that all that matters is that they stop this person, they stop him. Young Midoriya wouldn't want this. Young Midoriya wouldn't want to hurt others, in which Endeavor thinks that's the truth. He wouldn't want to. It's obvious that this kid has made an impact on every single person here, but unfortunately, it has to come to an end. It has to come to an end right now. Immediately, Endeavor would grab onto All Might, and he would begin charging up this massive burst of flames. All Might would feel this burn and could feel that Endeavor has been training all his life for a moment like this to stop something so monumental, something so insanely strong, that he would be the #1 hero. But he's no longer thinking about being the #1 hero. He's thinking about saving everyone, saving his family, saving his sons, or his son and so many others. And they charge up this large blast of fire. The fire would engulf the entire sky. The entire sky would be covered in flames, and Izuku would begin burning up, but so would All Might. Everybody scorching to pieces, everybody burning up, and everybody just obliterating within the space or sky, and all the space within the sky. And eventually the flames would stop. Endeavor would fall down, including All Might and Izuku. But it seems like Izuku's gone. Izuku no longer there. But here's the thing. There's one piece of Izuku still alive. Endeavor tries to get up, tries to burn it, and tries to send a flame, but he can no longer output anything else. All Might lays there, practically lifeless, unable to move, his body burnt almost to a crisp. But eventually, the skin, the tiny bit of that was left of Izuku, would bubble just a little bit and would begin to regenerate, turning back into what he was immediately before this whole attack. Izuku would regenerate entirely, and it would be this primal roar where he would scream, and he immediately would just screech and scream and start laughing in a way, very maniacally, and everybody would be in shock. That was their final gambit. That was their last chance. They could have incinerated him entirely. What do they do? What can they do? And as Izuku grabs the body of All Might and tosses it aside, he walks toward Endeavor, about to put him down for good, punching Endeavor in the face and actually putting a hand out. As he puts the hand out, a kind of light would come from his hand, and it seems like he's about to blast him with an explosion. But as he's about to blast him, someone would come running, immediately grabbing Izuku's hand and trying to stop him. Izuku looks and goes to point the blast at him, but he realizes that it's a little girl. The little girl by the name of Eri struggles and tells him to stop this now, that she can help him, in which Izuku would look shocked, or the being would look shocked. It seems as if Izuku has seen this girl before, has seen her, and that's the truth of it. This little girl has been visiting Izuku within the prison that is there, and she was telling him that she will save him, she will help him, because she now knows how much he means to all of them, how much he means to every single person out there, from student to teacher to hero, that she knows how much that he means. And immediately the beam would go away. Izuku, well, the kind of boo version of him, the Majin, would look at the little girl and tilt his head, confused. But this gives the girl an opening. Aizawa would scream toward Eri, but this isn't a scream of get away. This is a scream of this is your chance. And Eri would begin to show this electricity, this electrified area around her entirely, grabbing onto Izuku, hugging him, hoping that he comes back, hoping that this person begins to, come back to them, to all of them. And Izuku's skin would begin to change once again, changing and kind of just getting rid of everything that's happening. And as this is happening, he can feel his body, everything changing, everything's different, eventually leading to him, well, basically looking like himself once again. But as this is happening, the android 21 that is within him would appear once again. But this android that comes out, well, she wouldn't be an android anymore, actually being the normal human she once was once again. Eri would collapse in exhaustion. Izuku would stand there and look toward the woman, and she would shake her head, not knowing what's happening either, actually panicking a little bit, wondering what happened, where is she, what's happening entirely. In which Izuku asks her to calm down as he picks up the little girl and begins to heal her. As Izuku looks around to see the death and destruction at his wake, he only remembers small little bits, but he heals her and she wakes up. Eri immediately is shocked to see this and sees that Izuku is fine. Happy to see it, but also happy to see that Aizawa and many others are still alive. She runs away toward Aizawa, hugging him, and Izuku would look at the woman next to him and ask her how she feels, in which she says that she feels good, fine. She doesn't feel anything odd or anything crazy, in which Izuku nods and thinks that it must have been, or whatever happened must have reverted her as well alongside Izuku. But Izuku would look around and ask them, how many were killed? In which immediately Aizawa shakes his head and he tells the kid that too many. In which Izuku says that he can save them, he can heal them, he can help them. In which immediately Izuku would begin to fly, and Aizawa would tell him to calm down, to wait, that it's not that time just yet, that they're worried that more things could go wrong, that more things could. Izuku shakes his head and says he has to make this right. Let him go heal the ones that are injured. Let him save them first. Which Aizawa would nod his head as they would all leave toward a hospital that holds a lot of people, multiple hospitals, actually, even a UA built hospital that is currently holding a ton of injured people, in which Izuku heals every last one of them, taking a lot of his energy to the point where this takes over a course of multiple days, but he heals all of them. But the thing is, there are so many that still perished, so many that Izuku wishes he could still save, so many he wishes that he could still revive, but he can't. They're dead. There is no life, there is no soul, there is no person still behind those eyes. They're no longer alive, no longer in the land of the living, so he cannot save them. He cannot help them, in which Izuku is extremely sad about this, because he just feels that he really messed up, that he really let himself, just go. He let himself be whatever that creature was, and it's all his fault. He doesn't know what he can do, and let's just say the entirety of the society is split. They don't know. They don't know if they want to allow Izuku to still be a hero. They don't know if they want to allow Izuku to not be in prison. That's whatever it was. I mean, it still was him. It still was him. But All Might, who is actually healed now from Izuku, but still actually wearing some of the burns that are on his body, it seems that All Might tells them that this young man is a hero. That he is a hero. A better hero than so many of us, and even Endeavor and many others who were beaten and battered by Izuku. They would vouch for him, saying that Izuku Midoriya is a hero. He is, but he just may not be the traditional one that many seek out. They all apologize. Everyone apologized, especially Izuku, saying that the lives that were lost, well, they will always be in debt, or he will always be in debt to them, that he will help them as much as possible. He will make, he will heal. He will be at hospital after hospital. He'll save loved one after loved one until he can really make everything right. And he still won't be able to make everything right. But he tells them all the rest of his life will be dedicated to helping others, to helping the entirety of Japan, and then maybe even helping the entire world. Because he believes that he could truly heal everyone. He could truly heal the world, in which Izuku would go hospital to hospital when he's not in schooling, when he's not taking classes. He'd be going hospital to hospital, helping out here, helping out there, helping out this, that, this, and he would be doing that over and over and over again. And this is what he is. He's basically a savior slash healer, and he continues to do this, avoiding the actual big fights of what a hero may go into. But in terms of proper help and proper kind of being a hero and doing heroic things, Izuku would be doing so much. I mean, we're talking about Lemillion wanting to save 1 million people. Izuku wouldn't be saving 1 million people, but he would be healing thousands, hundreds of thousands, and maybe eventually get to the millions, because he would get to the point where disease would no longer matter. Health would be at a tip-top shape. And on top of that, he would even find ways with his power, with his magical Majin powers, to stop the homeless, stop the hungry, and stop everybody. He would literally be the hero without heroes. He would be a hero in terms of health, healing, food, everything you could think of. The only thing he's not doing is he's not out there on the front lines how he used to be and how he wanted to be. But he still is being the hero that he sought out to be, no matter what. Helping, healing, and doing everything in his power for Japan. Hoping that one day it will be enough for him to say that he made up for his mistakes, that he made up for the death that he caused. Even if that day never comes, eventually the people will look at him, even if it's not all of them, will look at him as a hero. They won't put the asterisks. They won't put the quotations. They will be able to say that he is the Majin hero. But with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.